Why AMD? Why? This is the AMD R9 290, and back when it launched in 2013, it was a monster of a GPU. However, halfway through 2022, AMD announced it would be cutting all driver support of the R9 290 and R9 390 series, which is quite a bit of a shame, to be honest, because these graphics cards are still quite relevant even in 2022, 9 years after its launch. This is because it's very similar in terms of performance to an RX 470 or an RX 570. However, it is consuming a lot more power. However, the performance is still very similar. So why has AMD cut ties with this graphics card, especially with the GPU market crisis, which did happen, but it's kind of okay now. But I still can't see why AMD would stop the driver support for this thing. However, with all that being said, let's get into the specs of this graphics card. So it's built on a 28nm processing node with 2560 shading units. It also has 4GB of GDDR5 memory, which runs through a monster 512-bit bus. So you can see why gamers back in 2013 would pay $399 US for this thing, because it was a beast. The model I've got on hand today is the MSI Gaming, and it's built upon the amazing Twin Throzer design, which is a dual fan design, and it keeps the card quite cool and very quiet as well. It has a slight factory OC, which does help improve the frame rate a tad bit, and it requires one 6-pin and one 8-pin PCIe power connectors to juice this thing up, and they recommend a 600-watt power supply. All benchmarking today, as always, is done on my benchmarking system, which has a Ryzen 5 5600G, 16GB of Crucial Ballistics 3200 MHz CL16 memory, and a Gigabyte X570 Aorus Ultra. All testing today is done at 1080p resolution, as that is the resolution I will recommend for this card, even though in some games you'd probably be able to get away with 1440p. However, starting off with Unigine superposition, it got 7459 on the medium preset, which is actually not that far behind the RX 480. Which just goes to show this thing is still quite powerful even though it's 9 years old. So as I keep saying, AMD, why have you cut the driver support for this thing? Straight from the get-go, the R9 290 hit the ground running in Assassin's Creed Valhalla with 45 FPS on average, 34 FPS for the 1% low on the medium preset. And in the in-game benchmark, I think this is pretty good performance, even though the R9 290 was 7 years old when AC Valhalla launched. So if you're planning to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it doesn't look too bad on the medium preset, but you can definitely get away with it on an R9 290. Not bad for a £37 graphics card. Getting into Forza Horizon 5 now, and this was one of the more troublesome titles. It did come up with a driver warning before I actually launched the game, and performance here wasn't particularly impressive. With the medium preset applied with TAA anti-aliasing, the R9 290 got 45 FPS on average with a 1% low of 32 FPS. I don't think this is great performance at all, and it could be down to the driver warning, so your mileage may vary. A polar opposite is up next, and that's Rainbow Six Siege. Performance here, as always, is very reasonable, very respectable, with 134 FPS on average and 88 FPS for the 1% low. On the high settings, I don't think this is bad performance at all, and with a 144Hz monitor, I'd say drop that down to medium and you'll be way above your refresh rate threshold, so great performance here. Fortnite is up next, and it's notoriously laggy until the shaders compile, which is the reason why the 1% low figure is so low for this game. This will improve with more time just playing the game, I guess. With 100 FPS on average and 26 for the 1% low, with the medium settings, this isn't terrible performance at all, and if you were willing to drop everything to low, I would say you've got a perfectly fine esports little rig going on here. Considering that this graphics card only cost me £37, this isn't bad performance at all. Next game up next, and it's a new one, is F1 22. With 71 FPS on average, 66 for the 1% low, with the high settings enabled in the wet Australian Grand Prix, this isn't bad performance at all, even though this game launched after the final driver for the R9 290. So if you're looking to play the newest F1 game, your performance will be just fine. Last game up today is GTA 5, and this launched on the Xbox 360 in the same year where the R9 390 launched. So performance here is going to be good. And spoiler alert, it is good, with 82 FPS on average and 66 FPS for the 1% low. This was done at the high settings with 2x MSAA full. This was done with both anti-aliasing and reflection anti-aliasing, so great performance here. GTA, it still looks really good, and this is some really good performance as well. Considering its age, the R9 290 is still a very powerful GPU. You've just got to look back and remember that this thing was launched in 2013. Which moves me on to the question to AMD. Why have you stopped the driver support for this thing? I guess it's hard running a development team that's got to support all the new GPUs, the RX series, and the old R9 series. I get that. However, this thing is still very powerful, and it still supports DirectX 12 properly, unlike Nvidia cards which were released in the same year. 780 Ti. Don't know what all that was about. And this is bad because you do get driver warnings in some games like Forza Horizon 5, which always comes up with a driver warning before you launch the game. So do I recommend the R9 290 in 2022? And the answer is a no, unfortunately. Unless if you can find one for £37 like I did. I got this for £37 mainly because it was a broken GPU. All that needed doing was brand new thermal paste, and it works perfectly fine. So if you can get it for really cheap, or if you're still gaming on an R9 290, I would say it's a good GPU. As long as you don't really care about games that are coming out in the next couple of years, I'd say you'd probably be fine. However, if you like to play the latest and greatest AAA experiences and stuff like that, this isn't the graphics card for you. However, with all that being said, I'm going to leave this video here. So if you like the video, like it and stay subscribed for more content, because more is on the way, and I'll catch you in the next one.